We've got a lot of people in. Bottom right corner in the chat, open it up, drop us where you're from. Where in the world are you dialing in from on this beautiful, well, Friday in Sydney and Thursday in the rest of the world? Still London. All right. Toronto, Madeira, New York, Florida, Surrey, India, Chiang Mai. Hey, hey.
India, there we are.
We got India, we got Pakistan, we got Durham, we got Nashville, Madison, Texas, Missouri, Serbia, London. Woof. All right. Let's go. All over the world, worldwide. I would really love to have like that music running. We would have easily put Pitbull over here, Mr. Worldwide. Anyway, that's my dad joke for the day. Cool. As more people are coming in, welcome everybody. Akash, do you want to run an intro? Do you want me to run the intro? I know I'm sort of throwing you on the spot. What you want to do? Do you want me to do it? You go.
Go.
You can take it forward, Buff. You can go.
Oh, you want to take it forward? Okay. Sweet. What is up, everybody? As we get more and more people to come on board on this beautiful day, thank you for jumping on. You're here for one and one reason, the clickbaity title that I've put on. I apologize for that. It will hopefully not be clickbaity. It's going to be very much click-worthy. Sweet. What we're going to be speaking about over here is we're going to get the OG man, Jesse. For all of you that don't know about him, I will very much let him introduce himself. I will not be able to do justice. Jesse's instrumental amongst many concepts and principles of deliverability in the baseline of SmartLead as a business itself, as well as much of the market that I'm sure most of you are aware of. He was the guy who pulled out and spoke about the warm-up failure that was going to come through. He spoke about Zoho tanking. He spoke about a lot of things before the market even knew it. He led the entire way, and we've managed to get him here one more time, this time to speak about how you can go ahead and automate the crap out of your business. You can learn a lot about deliverability, and you can figure out how to build an entire system of outbound using all the protocols and things that he shares. So definitely one to be recorded, definitely one to, put your thinking hat on and get your questions ready if you want to go ahead and drop them in. PS, if you got any questions, bottom right corner, you can pop them through. But at the same time, if you want, you can wait till the end of the session. But I know some of you are little cheeky buggers. You want to have the questions coming in as you go. Go for it. No one's going to stop you.
Okay.
Sweet. With that being said, Jesse, we would love an introduction from yourself, sir.
Yeah, so great. Hey, thanks a lot for having me on again. Really excited to talk about this. A lot of my stuff's been more about email delivery, but we've been doing some pretty cool stuff on our back end, that we haven't really told very few people about. We're doing, we kind of come into it with a command center mindset. We're building, a headquarter, like a SmartLead, command center installation here, right? It sounds cool, but that's sort of, I see a lot of automation out there right now, and some of it's pretty good, but I think there's another level to it. And that's what we're going to get into today. So I'm the founder of LeadMagic, and, I've been on here a few times. So good to chat with everybody again.
Gang, let's go for it, sir. So we're going to start over here is maybe kick off with like, what do you think are the 3 top things people need to automate on outbound?
Yeah, so right now, where I think a lot of it you got to go do right now, and SmartLead has some great functionality around here, you got to really understand webhooks. And what I mean by that is just in general, the concept, right? The technology is not as important. It's more about the process. What that's doing is it's essentially sending you notifications. So SmartLead, there's a couple of spots where you can really take advantage of this. There's the disconnect notice, which is a huge value. And if you're not monitoring that, that's a problem number one. So I'd say that's number one for automation, is monitoring all notifications, monitoring all replies, monitoring that. The next part about it is really you got to monitor your how your replies are getting handled. So there's a lot of agencies out there, or even SaaS companies, that are using SmartLead that just don't have a great handle on their replies. They're still kind of, you might not have the users that are actually in the space. They're not always going to go into the SmartLead UI, right? Not everybody has an account. Not every account is set up. So what we do is we put everything in Slack, of course. And, what we've also done is we've set up there is a standard way to do it, but if you're building a true command center, you've got to basically learn how to build your own buttons and things like that in Slack. I mean, that's the cool way to do it. So you'll want to use the bot token, and you want to use the app, the token for the for SmartLead, and you want to be able, or for Slack, and then you want to set that up so you can get more out of it. You can respond in Slack and things like that. That'll help you a lot. You know, you can do it with Teams as well. But even if your company doesn't use Teams, they use Teams, you could also set up your own like guest private Slack if that becomes a problem. You don't need to be on the same system. The next one I'd say is would be reporting analytics and warm up and kind of monitoring that. And then I think campaign setup would be the fourth that we handle.
Cool, man. That is awesome. And I guess we can go ahead and get the screen sharing. Let's see. Let's go to the magic.
Yeah. So I think here, let me show you a couple of where I want to go, like where I think here. Hold on 1 second. Pull it up. So just out of what we usually do when we're looking at this, whenever we're building an automation for SmartLead, or really we start here, this is the API docs page that, you know, this might be boring to some, but if you're really truly building that command center approach, a couple of the things that are going to be important. So what you want to think about is you want to think about how do we get these notices in there. So that's one thing. So one thing a lot of people do is you'll come in here, you'll find out what you're going to need to use to actually start out building the automation. And you'll need to do things like create campaigns, right? You'll need to know how to do that, right? That's an important aspect of it. The next thing you'll need to know how to do is really list all these campaigns, get all the analytics on them. Now there'll be 2 or 3 calls you'll have to make to kind of do that. And tools we're using right now to do that. So we're using like N8N to do that, Pipedream, tools like that work. You could also use Make or Zapier. It's a little bit tricky. Sometimes you might want to get, you can hire, there's some pretty good people. I know Arub, that does hang out in the SmartLead Slack. He's out there that has done some Make integrations for people. There's also a lot of other people who do automations in there. Right now, the way that we're handling it, on the no-code side, we're using N8N. Now, N8N for a lot of people is going to be tricky because you do have to host it yourself, unless you go with their cloud version. But sometimes you can go past their limits on their cloud version.
Do you want to explain for anyone what exactly N8N is, if there's someone new?
Yeah. So what N8N is N8N, these are sort of no-code tools. They've sort of taken what they've done is they've essentially gotten into a space where they're able to here 1 second, pull up a flow here. So one thing you can do in N8N is you can build, these are going to be a lot of the different flows that you'll have. So most of your stuff will work off a trigger, right? So you'll have, okay, so let's say you're building one that's for the disconnect notice, right? You want to get that into your chat. One thing you can do is you could set up a trigger. You'd set up a webhook trigger in here, and it would basically start out, okay, now you've got a webhook. So now you can listen on Slack. I'm sorry, you can listen from the disconnect notices and things like that. That's like one big area. So you'd put this into your SmartLead channel, and then you would give it this URL. And then now you'd be basically doing N8N. N8N is going to allow you to bring it through your workflow. You can hook it up to really any system that you have in your company. So if it was a Calendly or whatever, but in this case, you'd want to use Slack. I'm just kind of showing like a basic view. So what this is this would allow you to do really any sort of Slack integration that you have, right? And, you know, I'm just kind of giving you some general ones that people might do, right? Not going into depth. If you have some more questions, people can ask it like in the QA part, and we can record this. But, you know, what you might want to do is, okay, think about this as like an action that comes in. So we might have a response, right? So it's like somebody replied to an email. That's an event. A disconnected inbox. That's an event. So what you want to do is start out by defining all of your events. And those are going to come in through SmartLead, because you're monitoring the 2 places you're going to want to do this in SmartLead. One is going to be under your disconnect notices and sort of that execution part. And then the other part's going to be around your like sending, receiving emails, all of that, like opens, all of those in the SmartLead settings. So if you give it, you can only set one event per campaign. So just remember that, like coming towards yourself. So you might want to build one that's a catch-all webhook. So a lot of the times what I'll do is I'll start out by, and Vaibhav and I talk about this site a lot, webhook.site, which is, it'll just basically look at any event you're getting in and it'll just catch it. And then you can see how to handle the response. The response can be handled a lot of different ways. So some of the ways that you can do it, you'd be doing it through here. And you could say like, okay, I want a webhook. Once I get I want to now do GPT sentiment on it. Maybe I want to do something with that hook. Okay, I'm going to do I'm going to do one where I'm going to use one of my assistants, or I'm going to use like a chat GPT or cloud, something like that. Like there's a lot of different things that you can do off of that, right? And I'm going to send an email to my team, something there, right? So it's just a workflow system, but you got to think about everything as, okay, it starts with a webhook. It's going to come inbound and and then you're going to decide from there what's going on. Now, there are a lot of tools that do this, Zapier, Make, they all do it. It just depends on, your goals. So you got to, first thing I would do is I would check and see how many events you're getting a month, right? What happened to us is, we might've been on like a Make. Then we realized, okay, we're way past the speed and the agility of this product. We're going to go to N8N because it's a little bit faster. But then you bypass N8N when you realize, hey, these servers can fall over sometimes. So you don't want to get into like the server administration game. So then you start to go to more code, right? There's like a journey that happens. And this is like the underpinning of that journey. And, I'll kind of pause here, but think about this as like the plumbing to SmartLead. And you can start to develop a capability around this in your organization. And this is where you start to build really a low code or no code excellence center in your company, really, is what you're doing. So let me pause there. Yeah, any questions, V?
No, I think you're going solid. What we can do next is sort of figure out where, we jump into the practicalities of perhaps when disconnects happen, like warm-ups or mailbox disconnects, and what are some common errors people need to look out for. And then from there, it'll be a super easy flow to see something like that. And you can maybe even use like the test webhook if you want, just to emulate something.
Yeah, sure.
And then show an email go through, and then boom, boom, kaboom.
The hardest ones are the, so let me show you here, one second. Let me show you so what we would be doing is, here, let me just pull one up. I just don't want to get doxed here accidentally. I've been doxed on a few of these stupid things. Let me find the right one here. Hold on. I got it right here. So let me find one that is a sentiment one. Okay. So this is an example of one that I'm using just sort of like, just to give you more of a sample of my own inbox. So this is the one that I use for my own spam filter, like in my own, inbox, to like sort my own inbox, right? And, I'll build up to it. So you got the Gmail trigger comes in, then basically like the instructions of what you're going to process through GPT, right? And then what that does is that's going to allow me to decide where to put that. And then I'm going to add my labels, trigger the label, and then I'm going to do that, right? So that's my basic like 101 one. Now, let me show you one that's relative to the SmartLead ecosystem, because you want to see like, hold on. So here's a good one, actually. So this is the one. This is actually on my website right now. So if you go to the LeadMagic page, there's a SmartLead analytics page where you can do this. I'll just show you how that's running. I'll give you the behind the scenes. So if you go in here, and then I got to give a shout out to somebody on my team, Yash, who's really good with some of these things. So, him and I work on a lot of this stuff, but he definitely, built this part of it, but still just N8N is a skill that you should definitely learn. No code, low code kind of thing. So here's a good example. So you get a webhook that comes in, somebody puts in their email address, they put in all of that, then they will check, we'll check the key to make sure it's the right key. Then what happens is we go through some more marketing-esque stuff. Then what we'll do is we'll look up, okay, let's now go and take the API key, we'll push that through, we'll get the campaigns. So what that does is that's going to pull out all of the campaigns that you're running, and that will then go transfer it to a Google Sheet. So you'll be able to drop that into a Google Sheet. Now you have a Google Sheet with all of the campaigns in it and all of the IDs. And if you want further information on those, there's another webhook in the SmartLead system called the Campaign Analytics. And if you've ever used SmartLead, you'll know sort of some of this will sound familiar. But there's another webhook you have to call to get the real information out of the campaigns. And you'll do that by calling out their campaign analytics. So there's another one you'll call there. And then you can append all of that data to those IDs. So it actually will take the number of campaigns you have. So let's say you have, I don't know, let's say you have 10,000, let's say you have 5,000 campaigns. It'll then run a call. It'll loop through and it'll run a call through all of those campaigns. And those campaigns will then become part of that Google Sheet. So now you've got your campaign analytics, right? Like, so this is an example of a reporting use case, right? And then as that's running, that'll run over there. The other functionality that we'll be doing is there's also I just want to make sure I got it here. Yeah, so there's that's the analytics one. That's the one, this is the one that's going to pull out the leads out of the campaigns. And then what we're doing is we're paging through. So like SmartLead, just so they don't crash their servers, you're able to pull 100 out, which is pretty standard. It's probably even a little generous. Most companies are giving you like 25 at a time. They're giving you 100 at a time. This is how you would pull out all of your leads. And if you think about any real website, it's an API, right? Like every website is an API. You're just seeing HTML on top of it. That's kind of how the internet works. But basically, like you're pulling out of like something that's text, right? This is pulling out the fields that SmartLead has stored, the leads, the campaigns. Now you're getting those into one query and you're basically pulling those into a Google Sheet. That'll allow you to pull them in there. Now, some people will take this information, maybe they pass it through to Clay, they do something like that. But a lot of the times once you graduate, I mean, Clay's an awesome tool. We're in there where I think we're number 2 on the waterfall now, but the we'll go to number 1 someday, I'm sure. But we'll on here, right here, if you look, you can basically pull that data in and you can make decisions on like if you're going to pull it in, right? But a lot of the times when you graduate to tools like this, you'll be playing a different game. You're going to be playing this sort of command center game. And what I mean by that is like Clay is like a kind of a drop-off point. A lot of the people that use it are great. They're kind of learning, a lot of them, right? Like they're newer to the world of automations. But the people who have been doing it for a longer time have probably graduated to tools like this or code, tools. And this is where you might even want to hire. There's a lot of people on like Upwork, and I know there's a lot of people in the SmartLead channel that are hanging out that are looking for jobs. So you might want to try to find somebody there if this is a little bit over your head. But essentially what you're doing is you're pulling it out of the SmartLead database. So for this workflow, we're able to pull, we can do it on a, like I said, there's a webhook. We're doing a webhook because it's an internet form that we have, right? We have a form on the internet that people fill out. It's a lead magnet. But for other people, you might make this a scheduled event, right? So this could be a scheduled event. What you might be doing here is you might be scheduling a sheet to be uploaded or updated every single day, right? So that's another thing. And then there's just some workflows here. I don't want to get too like deep into the code. I don't know what the level of everybody is here, but this is kind of an advanced workflow, I would say, because there is some code aspects of it. Basically, what we're doing is we're deciding what to return. We're running it over all the items. This is what you would do in a code scenario if you were writing it in Python or JavaScript. But it sort of runs through, then you're splitting out the columns, you're making that, and then you're pushing it back to Google Sheets. Google Sheets allows you to push those to the right columns, and then the output of this is a nice, pretty Google Sheet with all of your data in it and all of your analytics in it. So this is how you would do like this is a good workflow for SmartLead reporting. We actually have it on our site. You could actually go do it and get the report, and it would run. The executions will run. You'll get to see if it don't just disregard these errors. I don't think these are. I think I was testing some things here, but basically, like you'd run this on your on yours, you put your API key in. That's the best way to do it. And then you get your leads, your campaigns, your analytics out of your campaigns, and all of that. And this is, you know, a pretty good workflow. Another guy that's really good at this is a guy who I work with, Lakshay. So he's really good with that end as well. So, but yeah, pause there. So any questions?
One of the questions people had is are these workflows people can access, or how can they build their own, and where's sort of guiding cycle?
Yep.
And the second thing is, I guess for workflows like this, how I guess I have a question that separate to what people have to ask is this something that you plan from the very beginning while you're starting this, or do you sort of go along the way and create modules and add them as you go? Like, what's your it's a very similar, like, you know, developer experience, right? Like, do you have a scope doc, you know, a product requirement doc? Do you have like a design, like how does that work for you?
That's a really, really good question. And the answer is probably like most organizations, we start building them until they break, which is not good, right? You're better off. I'll be very honest. If you were really, really, really good at this, right? And we are good at this, but we've realized a lot of some of the sins of the past, you know, you'll start to collect something called technical debt. Like, I'll give you an example. So if you're running through this workflow, and what happens is, like, you think about this has to go through every single campaign and run analytics on it. What can happen is, let's say this part of the module breaks for whatever reason, whatever, Google Sheets is down. I don't know, like your credentials aren't working. Google stopped you from writing to a sheet or whatever. What happens is this part of it is sort of its own microservice function and code that you want to sort of like put off somewhere. So what ends up happening is you're better off actually this code, you know, and we've learned over time, but this code right here can fail, and you can't really replay it very easily unless you know where it fails. Like, there's some limitations. So if you're using N8N, this is just an N8N example. N8N, they've sort of like blocked you in some ways to using the debugger unless you pay their enterprise package. So that's something to note about them. But one of the things to note on is that, and you know, if this part fails, you probably want to have this calling another workflow in your system. And that's sort of what I was talking about Command Center. Like, that's like the joke, but it's more of you want to build something that sort of can't really fail. You want to build for failure. So there's a couple things you can do in N8N. You can build out these sort of these workflows to have error handling. You can have an error handling flow. Then what you can do is you can also have a flow that handles your, you know, you want to probably put this in like its own flow. Like, you'll learn a lot of this stuff as you go along. It can be time consuming if you want to really learn this stuff. Like, you know, it's painful. I've spent, you know, 5 hours at a time in one of these things, just trying to get something to work that I needed to work. You only will learn through failure. It's really painful. It's very painful. If you get really, really frustrated, you might want to hire somebody, but design it like V said. That's probably a better approach. But I do think you need the fundamental skills that these tools are starting to bring. And, you know, where you see this in Clay is the API inbound webhook, right? Like, that's the equivalent of what this is.
Got it.
This part over here, right? That's like the webhook here. The problem with Clay is it's a good thing because it actually reduces the complexity, but it can be a bad thing if you want to do a lot of things, right? So like, this is what a Clay webhook is right here, right? Now, if you think about what is going on, like inside here, you know, there's a lot going on.
Can you zoom in for a second? We don't need to click into
sure.
it. Can you zoom in for a second? Yeah, cool.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So the reason we're doing this is we're basically, this is actually a little bit of a trick here. We've learned how to like share a Google Sheet with you. So like we've got that here. That's sort of something we've been doing. But like, you know, we also need to handle like the success condition, which is like correct format. Like, this is our website, right? So this is like, you know, with your own thing, it'd be easier, but we have to handle the condition that you type in the wrong, key or whatever. And then we have to put it back to customer.io, put it back into our system. And then, you know, to make sure that we sent you because we're sending the email with customer.io. So we send it back. And then, this is what you'll get. The end result is this sort of like Google Sheet, which does your campaigns, your analytics on your campaigns, your inboxes, and your leads. Those are like the 4 things this does. And you can build this workflow in your own system. And I have it on our website if you just don't really want to build it, you just want a form. But that's what this is doing behind the scenes. So there is some magic behind what we're doing there.
That's crazy. Awesome. This
Yeah.
amongst the advanced ones that I've seen. Nuts. All right. Cool. Trying to pull back into the second thing that we want to speak about, right? I guess this one we sort of did a deep dive into analytics and pulling that data, doing conditional logics, and I mean for people of reference, for referencing people over here, right? You can see Jesse pointing to customer.io and a bunch of stuff. I'm pretty sure he's automating sending reports to his customers, clients, pretty much handling everything. You can go to a level where you send a customer.io a conversation that links to like a form where your customer is going ahead and asking, okay, I'm not happy with this number. That's also automated. That can be fed back in, and you can automate. I think someone asked a question saying, when do I do this for my agency? I would actually love to ask you that question, Jesse. When's the right time to start this?
Here's what happened. Like, we were doing an agency and we just got so good at it. We just built a SaaS company out of it, right? Now we have a profitable SaaS company. It was kind of a weird thing that happened. We got much better. The whole team just sort of enjoyed doing the technology workflows a little bit more. And we like the sort of like, and we were really good at finding emails, right? So we were really good at that, like one thing. So we realized, okay, let's do this. Let's build a company that does that, right? Like, let's find emails better than anybody, and let's validate emails better than anybody. And let's put that in an API, right? That's sort of, if you think about this as like, this is the start of building your own API, really is what it was. And, it's just a programming interface, right? That you're, an application layer that you're basically able to do and put on the internet. That really became the catalyst of what our company became. So I guess when to start, probably yesterday. You're probably behind most. There's a lot of agencies. I mean, I would say like SmartLead has like, the reason I do love the SmartLead email group is because I think they're the most advanced group of on the technology side. That's why I've sort of like I've been asked by a lot of the other groups, but they just don't have like, I haven't found the sophistication that the end users have on the SmartLead side. There's just another level there. That's what I'd say. So like, I think you're probably behind other agencies right now if you're not doing any of this stuff. If you're just sending emails and you don't have this stuff working for you, you're probably way behind. So start today. Get somebody, maybe invest a couple of $1,000s to get a couple of flows made, and you'll change your business, and you'll probably realize that you're probably missing a pretty big opportunity for yourself.
Pretty much what I told the same thing. I was like, if you got to start now, and this is, if you want to set the systems up, set it up correctly, and you're good to go. But yeah, I think it'll be great to sort of look into the next thing that you wanted to speak about.
Yeah. So the next one here, the next thing I would say, let me just stop the share and go to the screen. The other one that is just sort of like another understanding that we, so one of the things that I'll sometimes run into is, let me just pull it up here. Give me 1 second. Okay. So one thing we'll watch for all the time is if there's a hey, if you want to set one of these up, sometimes just setting it up and sort of maintaining it is a little bit of a pain. One thing I like to do is, if you're just looking to see what comes in from a webhook and you want to just catch it, and you want to just, like, the best tool to do that, and it's free, which is great. But there's a tool called webhook.site, and I know V uses this to test. But whenever we get a SmartLead reply, you'll put it here. You can put it here, right? This is another way to do it, or a disconnect account. And then it just says username and password not accepted. So we've got an issue here. So we need to flag that as an issue. This is just to kind of see what's going on. The nice thing about this is it's very easy just to go create a webhook and then catch the webhook and see what's on the other end of it in that format. And you can do stuff in here. It's a little more technical if you're not, like, you can do a lot of the same stuff that you can do in end-to-end for some workflows. I've been using it a little bit, but If you want to build out a full workflow and you want to hire somebody on the no code or low code side, you could do this. But then once you figure out like this part of it, I think the next part is like the visualization and the UI to get this to somebody, this information, right? That would be the next step. And I would look at tools like Retool or Superblocks for that. Those are like the two that I would probably recommend, but you'll probably find more Retool people. It's for building your own internal app, right?
Yep.
So that's sort of the
Yep.
next step, is like being able to visualize all of this. And this can come from a lot of different sources. So I think building your own internal admin app is really where you want to start to go if you get some value out of this. And then also getting it into Slack for notifications is the other part.
That's a big one, right? People getting the notifications coming through. And just for reference, for anyone who does not know already, we've got a mobile application, so you can do that and get your pingy notifications come through straight to your phone as well. Sweet. All right, Jesse, we can.
Yeah, and I guess the only other thing I'll share would be while you're talking here, I'm going to pull up just how we're handling like replies. Like, so we'll catch the replies and we'll push those to Slack, and I just want to pull it up here. But while you're kind of going to the next topic, but the biggest thing on Slack is being able to have the interactivity. So one thing we found is that it's really important to let me just try not to.
So I think while you're doing that, I guess and you're gonna share your screen. I want to go ahead and pick up on one more thing before we stop sharing your screen and go into secondary set of topics. The secondary set of topics beyond that is, I think it will be good to understand from your part.
Yep.
In the shortest way possible. So you're welcome to take a second to sort of breathe through this. Is I think one of the core things people want to know is, how do I create a campaign and like set it up and get it going, right?
Got it.
How do I find leads from X tool, push them to SmartLead, set up the timings, connect my mailboxes, and it's good to go. Is there like, if you can just walk me through that or give me some advice on where to go, we're sorted.
Sure. Yeah. So to create a campaign, what you're doing, and you can do this in really any of these tools, you're using the SmartLead Create Campaign API.
Yep.
Endpoint. You can do that in any of the tools. You can even do it in Clay. You can do it in any of them. What you're doing is you're making a webhook call, and you're creating essentially you're creating a shell of a campaign, and then you upload the list after. So that's sort of the
right? It's create campaign API, save campaign, add leads to a campaign, and then I believe it's add mailboxes to campaign as well by the ID.
Yes.
And then you just start the campaign. So it's just four APIs. Right. Create the shell, create the settings, add the leads, add the mailboxes, go.
Yep. And GPT is great for this. So like you could take, I mean, if you really want to, if you're not really good at this, you could go into like one of the things you might not even know this exists, but there's a back end of the API README here. You can go and check, and there's campaigns. If you go in here, this is what they call the schema for all of the.
Yeah, that's what I used to train our GPT thing. Yeah, nice.
Yeah, so then you could take that and you can let's see here. You can take that and you put that into GPT, and then you can ask it. There's a good N8N. There's actually a pretty good N8N workflow in there, and you can actually put it in and say, hey, build me a N8N workflow that will create the campaign, set it up, and also upload leads or whatever. And it'll build you a pretty good shell of what you could get out of here if you're not good at this low code stuff. So you could definitely do that. Nice. And then I think the only other point I was going to show people is, I think one of the most important things, if you get it into your Slack, the reply, a lot of people aren't able to do this. This is like a really big, like I'd say if there's one value, like what I hate having to do is like training a new person on a new UI. Those are like, so if you take on a new client and they're like, hey, I got 14 SDRs, like I want them all using SmartLead, it's like, do I really want to go train 14 people on like SmartLead and do that? It's not always the best use of their time. So sometimes what we'll do is we'll use the reply lead in here, and then their managers can hold them accountable to like, this is how you could possibly have a larger team and manage their lead gen there, or like give people who aren't technical as much or aren't going to be able to go into SmartLead, give them a different UI that they're not getting like notifications on inboxes and things like that and the UI. So this is just a whole nother world of like what Slack's allowing you to do. When you reply here, it just sends
Oh shit!
another.
So you've automated you've actually built a Slack bot out of this. Nice.
Yes. Yep. Yeah. So we just haven't. I've been kind of selfish. I just haven't shipped it to the store yet. You gotta like they make it hard with all this security crap. So you have to go through 20. You have to get to. I think we have 20 users on it now though. So like we've
So
done.
I just want to
not
confirm with the
supporting
people
it,
who are
don't
asking.
ask
This
for
is actually
support.
pretty cool.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna ask you for support.
I don't
It's
want
actually
anyone
pretty
to like. I've had 4 people come in like, "Hey, can you guys help me with this?" I'm like, I can't right now. I'm like really busy, but you know, but that's the problem. But what we do is we also give them access to this, and they can see their campaign analytics and also like the email that came in. It just takes them in a hyperlink to the right lead on SmartLead. This is actually about 100 lines of code. I could probably give the code. I'll give the code to people, but you just got to go create your own Slack bot. Slack is actually really easy to build your own bot. You just go into the Slack in here. You can build as many Slack bots as you want. Extremely easy. Like, you know, and you know, if you get it published, you can actually submit it to the app, you know, the store, and your clients could use it and stuff. They can use it without it, actually. If you really like, that's one of the things I hate bringing clients into our Slack. Like, it's almost like they're really annoying when you get in there.
Yeah.
It's really bad. If you don't have a team like watching that channel, it can be a real nightmare.
Yeah.
You miss the messages, but you want to give them a good way to respond, but you don't want to give them the level of support unless they're paying for it. So you got to be careful there.
Makes sense. Nice, man. That's nuts. That's, I think a lot of people have spoken about how you've actually gone through doing XYZ. So that's great. Then I just want to talk about one piece before we go into Q&A, which is how do you identify valuable signals and triggers, or what's your way of doing data ingestion into a particular campaign or a particular data set?
So there's a lot of talk on triggers out there. And personally, for me to get really excited about a trigger, it needs to have like a really high response rate, like 15-20%. Like I really need to see that because I know there's a problem, right? Like it's like if somebody was, and it's hard to find these ones, right? Like these are the ones that I'm talking about that are harder to find, right? Now, what I mean by that is like, I'll give you an example of one, right? Let's say you were looking at public websites and somebody just posted they're renting out their apartment, and you sold software that could potentially find them a renter.
Got it.
I like ones like that because what, you know, that right there is a trigger that like it's real. They actually have the problem there. A lot of this stuff is so fuzzy. And I just get so I laugh because I see so much talk about triggers and signals, and I'm like, oh my God, like that is such a stretch that that's going to have the same 1% reply rate that you're getting on all the other shitty campaigns you're running, right? Like, I like the ones that are getting like, that make you a lot of money, right? Like that get you meetings, get you leads, get you there. I don't like to waste time with ones. But I think job signals are probably, you know, the best, but I don't like the data from the job boards. I think the data has to come from the website that posted it. So that's one of the things.
So how do you create that trigger? Are you listening to like an XSS or something, RSS, or that's scripting?
So
are you listening to RSS or something?
So in LeadMagic, we actually have, what we did is we indexed all of the companies that are out there, all of their job boards pages, whether on Workday, Lever, whatever the ATS system is, and we put that into the platform. So people come in and then they'll take that trigger. So if you're like, hey, I want to get all the sales development reps, but we only scrape it from the actual company because it's useless once it hits.
Because it gets redundant.
Because it's getting flooded at that point. You got to get it 3 days earlier than everybody else. Everybody else is on the stupid Indeed or LinkedIn scraper, which is not going to help you. You want to go to the corporate website.
Got it. And you're basically listening to the trigger.
We're scraping it every day.
Massive scraper, yeah. All right. Okay.
Yeah, we're scraping every job board every day. We don't even. I don't even need the LinkedIn data because it's shit anyways. But
Nice. All right. That's crazy. Thank you so much for that. Now this is the favorite part for most people. It's my favorite part. Anyone who's got questions, we have a few people who had questions. There's lots of questions that were dropped in. Raise your hand at the bottom right corner of the screen. There's a little thing called a react button. In the react button, click on recognize hand gestures, and I believe click on, just raise your hand like you've seen some of them have done over here. Go ahead and turn on your camera so we can pin you, and then you're welcome to drop in your question, and Jesse will have that, hopefully do his best to answer that question for you. So, yeah, beautiful chance for you to start doing that. I know a lot of you have questions over here in the chat. If you don't want to turn on your camera, I'll answer it I'll ask it on your behalf. But otherwise, obviously, beautiful chance to meet the man, the legend. All right, on to you, Frank.
Hey, what's up? I remembered my question.
Finally. Took a week over there. Good on you.
Go, Frank.
It did. Legit a whole week.
Go for it.
It's a very, very basic question. So I'm using a reseller right now to set up inboxes, domains for clients. I want to set up a premium tier where we're using MS and Gmail for them. How would you recommend the setup there? Like, should we create separate Gmail workspaces and then add all the domains and create the inbox inside of the same workspace? Or do you create different workspaces for domains? Like, how do you structure that kind of setup?
It's amazing how much time we've spent on DNS setup systems. I can't even, God, it would scare you.
I'm sure it would.
There's another guy that I work with too. Lakshay would be like, he's probably like terrified of it now, like that he'd ever have to do this. But it's just so I'll tell you what we do. We use for the the first thing you have to do, you have to make sure you pick a friendly DNS provider. Name a registration provider. Because a lot of the registration, and even GoDaddy's a little bit of a pain in the ass because you have to like wire them the money or something like that. It has to be like, it's just painful. Like, I don't know why you have to get your bank involved. It's like, just let me buy it with a credit card. So the ones that we've found that are friendly, but their API is a little antiquated, is Namecheap and DN Simple. Those are friendly. There's probably some other ones. I think some of them are even coming out with it. Hopefully they all come out with it because that's where the internet goes, right? Everybody wants APIs. So I'd say you have to have a friendly provider there. And then I think the other one that we like is Cloudflare. You can't register domains on Cloudflare unless you're on the enterprise tier. So you have to basically have the registration, the Cloudflare, then you add the records, and then you basically need the inbox automation. Now, we got sick of waiting for we wanted to be able to do it. So we went and released an app in Google App Store, so we could get the admin scope, so we didn't have to screw around with waiting for different that's how we did it. We just went and released an app, and then we got the Google admin scope, so we were able to now provision inboxes. The only thing you can't do cleanly is set up the DKIM record. So everything else you can do very easily with programmatic, just API call. The DKIM record is a little tricky. The people that know how to do it, and I'm not going to even talk about how to do it, but there's a way to do it. You just have to know how to do it, but it's just one of those things you can't, because the DKIM record is sort of they kind of if you set up a new org space, a DKIM record is they usually make you wait 2 to 3 days to get that thing sort of working the right way, because it really gives you access to send on Google. It's sort of like their approval period, right? They're going to approve everybody because that's their business, but there's a little bit of
They're actually, yeah.
You can't automate that part in an easy way. It's not documented out there very well, right? You sort of have to use different techniques, but nobody's doing that, I would assume, because it could put you in an issue with them legally. So you want to be careful there. But everything else you can automate. They give you the information to do it. It's all in their API docs, and GPT does a wonderful job at helping you build out the entire workflow. If you're not technical.
Just to simplify it, because I kind of understood sort of what you're saying, but let's say for instance, manual users, users going to do this manually, right?
Yeah.
Because I kind of have a hard time understanding, okay, how the automation should function unless I know what a human being would do in order to actually automate those steps. It's what would a human being do if they're going to go in there and manually go, okay, I have nothing today. I'm going to set up this stuff for the client. step 1, 2, 3, 4.
I think you'd want to get somebody involved a little bit. Like if you're at that level, you probably want to get somebody to help you build the workflow the first time. Just because it'll take you a little bit of time to learn it. If you're just like, hey, I want to learn, like just like I want to like, some people say, hey, I'm not a gardener, but I want to learn how to grow a garden, right? But if you're going to go and do it and you actually have a financial commitment to it, it could you could have to like it's not you're going to have to make a few API calls. You're going to have to go look at the docs. There's a lot of little things you're going to have to do. I don't know if it would be a good use of everybody's time to kind of go through it one by one. But you'd make an API call to Namecheap, you'd register the domain, you would then provision the domain to use different records on Cloudflare. You would then run put all the DNS records on Cloudflare. You create the inbox on Google. You'd verify the inbox on Google.
But you also create a workspace
the same
on
steps
Google,
you
right?
go through if you were setting up a new inbox.
Yeah.
Okay.
He creates a workspace
So you
on
can
Google.
add like a bunch of domains to the same workspace?
Yeah.
Or are we adding domains
You can do
to
whatever you
different
want, whatever
workspaces?
your heart desires, except the only limitation you have is the DKIM record. Like I said, that's the only thing that's actually tricky. And then Namecheap, there's a little bit of a problem where you have to put your IP address in to use it. Some people get snagged up there. But if you gave it to somebody who really knows what they're doing, it would take them 5 seconds to figure out how to fix that problem.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So, thank you for the high
honestly, it
level and
depends
also
which
like the
level you're
dumb.
at, right? Like I don't want to like, yeah, it's like if I walk through each step like on this call, everybody would probably log off.
Roll their eyes. No. Yeah. I see what you're saying.
I've gone through it in every single tool. That's like the first thing we do here. Like, to know if you're good or not. Like we'll say like, hey, we're using these 3 systems. Here's the order of operations. We'll even give them the order of operations and just to see like, hey, can you do this? Right. And that right there is a defining factor of, I think that should be the Clay expert test actually, because I've met a lot of the experts and I think a lot of them could probably do this, right? Like, but I think there's some that probably couldn't. So I think that's how you know if you're really an automation expert. Like that's probably the expert level. I think it's tricky. And then to put it into a form is another kind of skill to have too, right? We did it in our SaaS, we added it in our SaaS product. So we had to really know how to do it. And then we went and got both scopes. We got the Microsoft scope and the Google admin scope. So we actually even had it in Slack.
Awesome.
That's cool.
In the interest of
Thank
time, thank you so much, Frank.
Yeah,
we're gonna move on to the next person, which is Peter. Peter, feel free to oh well, never mind. That was quick. Go for it. Yeah.
I was
Get
ready.
scared. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I can ask it here. So is all of this just for cold outreach?
Wait, hold on. Where's this coming from? Sorry, Peter. There's another Peter who's on
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, apologies, mate.
Normally
you
the
can
only
put
one.
yeah, not the only Peter. Yeah, well, just put your hand up. I'll reply to your DM. I'll reply to your DM. Just go for it. The main Peter, well, not main Peter, the other Peter. Sorry. Go for it.
I was curious, Jesse, if you're a small agency and you're looking to hire some to help out with automations, I'm curious, what kind of background would you look for? And I guess as an ancillary question, like, does somebody do they need to have expertise in like the particular tool that you're looking to start building on, like Make or anything? Okay.
Yeah, this was my failure. Whenever I hire somebody that's not an expert in what I'm hiring them for to do, like the better I define the tools that I want to do it with, and for whatever reason, I think that these are the right tools at the right time. If you're using SmartLead, you really aren't going to go wrong if you use Make, if you use N8N, those. The only problem with N8N is you have to host it yourself. That's a little bit of that's a problem, a little bit, probably one you want to think about. If you don't have like, if something goes wrong with the N8N thing, you're going to be in, you can definitely use their cloud one, but it's still sort of like they haven't really gone to the cloud yet. I know that sounds weird, but they're not really like serverless. It's not a serverless app. So it's not something they sort of maintain for you. So you have to, I think their enterprise version, they do. But if you're going to hire somebody, don't screw around with hiring somebody. Like if you're going to hire somebody on like a Fiverr, Upwork, one of those, like don't screw around with hiring somebody who's not an expert in the actual tool you're using. This is something that I've done. I try to get somebody to do something they're not an expert in, and then I have to pay for the learning. It's aggravating because you want it done faster and it really blocks you from progress. But the best thing to do is write out what you want done and then just say, here, you give them like it's like a pamphlet that's like, hey, I don't want you to do anything else. Please just stick to this scope. Here's what it is. If you get like consultative with the person, and depending on who you're hiring, it can get really bad and expensive.
Yeah.
So like if you said, you know, how to build and make one, you know, you'd have, okay, great. Find the domains, add the records, add it to Google, do a site verification, add the SPF, add it back to SmartLead, done. Right? Google, you know, like you'd have that done in 2 seconds. That would be the workflow they'd have to build. You'd want to give them a diagram and you'd want to tell them exactly the steps you do manually. That could be a good, you know, a good way to do it. But I would not hire anybody that isn't an expert in that one tool that you're building it in. It's a waste of your time.
Awesome. And then any other like ground skills that you would recommend for a more generalist person if they're going to be like the only guy on your team?
Yeah. So what really helps is that they've actually handled the responses that come in, and they understand the actual. So there's 2 pieces of it, and you can't avoid either one of them. If you avoid one of them, they go really bad. Like I've hired developers who could not figure out the business aspect of it, and they would do things that you'd be like, dude, you're a smart person. Like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Like, that's not, nobody could use that.
I completely get what you mean on this as well. Just
you have to have both. And if you neglect one of them, you're screwed. That's why you want to be on both sides yourself.
Yep.
But you don't have to like go, like the level I went to here, I know there's probably somebody already like, is this just for cold outreach kind of thing? But it's like, yeah, I mean, it is, but it isn't, right? You're building a business, and you know, if you're thinking about like getting to the next level of that business, right? With us, we started as an agency. Now we have a profitable SaaS company, right?
Yep.
That's sort of like, you know, you think about it that way, like you're building for your future, right? You're just going at a different speed. I'm not saying you're going to be there tomorrow, but we're on the latest technology that, you know, venture-backed software companies are on, right? Like we didn't need to raise any of the capital that they did, and we have a profitable company. So I don't know. I mean, you can invest in your future, or you can decide to just kind of do what everybody else is doing, and you know, or you got to just ask yourself a little bit there, like, what's your goal in life? I don't know, but that's sort of like one of the pillars of it. Like you're investing in your company.
Definitely. No, this is exciting. Cool.
Yep.
Thank you guys.
Easy, man. Thank you so much, Peter. We've got 2 more. We've got Ken Charles, and we've got Atishay, but we'll kick off with Ken first, and we'll go to Atishay right after.
Hey, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. We just migrated an existing business that we ran it on outreach.io for I don't know how many, a lot of years, and we moved over to SmartLead, which we're pretty happy with. My question is kind of like, there's like operational things that can be done and maybe technical things that can be done. Like we're building out literally right now the automations using the webhooks and stuff, and we have engineering resources that can help do stuff. So that part's pretty good. My question is like actually the operational side. So inside of it, we have the master inbox, right, where all the leads come in and the replies come in and such. As far as I can tell, it's like we have a large team of people, and then they all basically looking into the same master inbox to find their responses and then assign them to themselves so they can like look at them or something. Or if you had somebody that was automating that, or like, can you automate the assigning of leads to people? Can you sort of have like, we know which leads are going to belong to which people. So like before we even put them in the system, these are like enterprise-y kind of features that I think Outreach had that like SmartLead doesn't. So we're trying to figure out a workflow for it. And then likewise with the, well, yeah, I mean, it's kind of basically just a question about the operational side of it. Other thing is, what are companies doing for that? And also security controls, like every user that actually logs into the system can just download every lead in the company as a CSV, which is not great for a large operation, you know? So like, how are companies dealing with this? And if you have any recommendations, I'd really appreciate it.
So I know SmartLead's obviously building. I mean, they're one of the fastest growing software companies in the world right now. So you're probably seeing, you know, Outreach at a little more time on the clock there. There's probably some of those features, but I think where, you know, they're building those features. But I also think that, you know, if it gets to the point where you're just like, okay, we've got to like, there's aspects that you might be able to take. Like one of the things that like, if I wanted a little bit more control over it, I would say, when I ran SDR or even I ran sales teams as well. And I just didn't want them in a tool, to be honest with you. I was just like, this is just a lot of extra work to onboard these tools and like the new features every quarter. You got to like educate your team and all of that. I started to think about like what they were doing in the tool, and I was like, I don't even really want to give them access to it. Like, let's just like, they don't
Yeah.
even need access. And to be running all the individual campaigns. So I think like it's a little bit of a shift. It's definitely a shift. And by the way, I've talked to a lot of outreach people, and some of them have switched, some of them are still doing the outreach thing. But I think what you got to think about is like, is there a way I could deliver them the same information somewhere where it's okay for us? If you wanted it, like Slack's been a good
Yeah.
vehicle for us. I got to be real. We've had a couple of we've had the outreach founders use SmartLead. So
Do they really? I didn't know that.
But I mean, like, they wanted to land in the inbox instead of going spam. So I mean, that's what
Yeah,
happens when you
that's why we migrated.
yeah, I mean, you want it, and it's one of those things you can capitalize on here a little bit. But I think Slack is a good vehicle. The one thing you might want to do is you got to kind of define what's operational technology. For some clients, we're really hesitant to give them the back end of SmartLead, like the white label. Some of them we are, some of them we aren't. That was when we were doing more of it. We got some, and I'm working with some of the largest SmartLead users, and in some areas we had to build our own sort of like, all right, this is all you're going to be doing. But I think, and I got a buddy who's a chief revenue officer, and he's into these things too. And we've been talking a lot about like, how would you operationalize these tools across big teams and things like that? And in a lot of ways, you just want to get them out of the tools, right? And that's what sort of AI and everything is doing for us right now. You can build, you might want to look at somebody who could do a retool, somebody who has retool, which is kind of a low code retool or Superblocks, because you could take some of the data and you could possibly even mesh it with your CRM. Right. That's actually an option, I would say. So if you had an in-house developer who was like, they could probably build you sort of like an admin app that could handle this whole process. That's what happened with us. And we started to do that. Now, SmartLead is, you obviously want to get aligned with them on like roadmap and things like that. But I know obviously there's earlier adopters.
I can jump in to help if
yeah,
you
go
want.
ahead.
Sorry, now I'm sort of throwing you in the deep end over there.
Yeah,
Ken to help you out with that. Yeah, you did great. Thank you. Always appreciate you, Jesse, for the hype. Couldn't do the statue. Ken, to sort of just simply jump in with respect to the thing that you said on the API for allocating a team member to a lead. I believe it's there. If it's not, give me till tomorrow. I'll push up an API where you can allocate a team member to a lead. Whenever a reply comes in, you get the email campaign map ID anyway. You can just use that and the team member ID and just ping it back, and I will get it allocated. It's super simple. Give us till tomorrow. I'll get this done right after this meeting anyway. But I just can't push it up because the team has to approve the code. But I'll get it done. That's easy. So you just need to listen to the webhook on the reply. The reply will come through. You want to listen to the email map ID, right? Which is basically the reply itself. You'll have a list of the team members, the IDs of the team members, and then just ping it through, and that will be allocated.
So it'll basically assign the right person back to the lead when
So it'll be done. Yeah. So just
and we have that all on our back end basically. Yeah, like the leads are pre-assigned basically to the person they should be routed to. So we can just push it back real easy.
So that's perfect. Great. So we'll do that. But to also help if that works for you, if you create a campaign and you allocate that to a team member, then every reply that comes from the campaign is automatically given to that team member, just as an FYI.
Oh, that's what you're saying. If they're attached to the campaign.
Yeah, so if attached to the campaign, it automatically comes to the team member automatically. If that's one way, that's kind of what people requested a long time ago. We built that in. But this is also completely fair thing where you have your own like algorithm or your distribution mechanism to allocate it. Completely fair. We'll get that in by tomorrow morning. The second thing regarding the CSV stuff with permissions, that's actually a pretty fair an interesting point. We do have a lot of permission layers coming through. To Jesse's point, if you got super hypersensitive data and the team generally is not someone that you, I guess, want to have, want to give access to information like that. Perceptively, perhaps that's unfortunately for now an outside conversation. But with that being said, and what Jesse noted, permissions are a big thing. I believe you spoke to Akash, our CSM, about the same thing, and he's also raised this, or he's heard you say this in the past. So permissions will be coming in a very deep rooted layer, but I don't want to promise you an exact date. But for now, you can do restrictions on view only access, which means they can't download stuff anyway. So you should be
I
fine.
make just if you guys are considering the permissions, we use some of the Zoho tools, but they have like super granular positions for like every type of security permission, whatever. But I'm really quite satisfied with it because we use it in some of the production tools and it's really good. But yeah, I really appreciate you working on this stuff. These are enterprisey things that
that's the kind of people that we're working with enterprise as well. So completely respect that. So if you only saw the permissions page, it gave our engineers heart attacks, but we're going to go very granular for you because you're not the first to raise this and you won't be last. So don't worry, we sorted out. But the first one, I'll push it up. I may not ping the channel, but you'll see the API drop up on the docs. Cool.
Thank you so much.
One of the things to note too is like what you're saying is like, it's awesome because one of the things that I was like, I used to work for more of like a bigger like SaaS company. Unfortunately, they fired me because I didn't want to like really comply too much there. But basically, what
been there, dude.
Yeah, so I ended up just doing it on my own. But here's what I thought was really important was like, if you're in a company and it's the right company and you say like, hey, you know, the engineering team's getting all these great engineers, like maybe we hire in our ops team a low code developer that could really take on retool and maybe some of these tools to fill some of the gaps, because the growth tools will definitely help you get there faster, right? And there's the same problem happens even on like LinkedIn automation or like other tools like that. And, you know, I'd probably lose status for talking about LinkedIn automation, but man, if you're not doing that right now, like what are you doing right now? But I mean, you got to really just go out there and think about like, you know, building that capability inside your agency or your, like, that should be your next hire right now. To get somebody that can like really fill some of the gaps of your SaaS tools, because you know tools like SmartLead are going to definitely help you grow a lot faster. And I think it's awesome what you're doing and challenging, you know, but you're gonna meet some resistance along the way. The old guard is there, and they're gonna try to stop you. There's no question, but you know, have a plan. And, you know, get an Upwork budget on the signing of your employment agreement.
Yeah, that's for sure. I really appreciate it, guys. Really appreciate it.
Yep.
Thanks.
All right, we've got one more, and that's Atishay. Let's go for it, mate.
Thanks, Pete. Hi, Jesse. Thanks so much for everything you've shared. My question is more around.
Just a question: is it possible for you to have your camera on just so we can spotlight you? It's okay if you can't.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I won't be able to. I'm
Yeah,
outside.
it's all good. It's all good. It's all good. Cool. Go for it.
Yeah. So my question is more around deliverability and automation, specifically around replacing inboxes, right? So,
Yep.
you know, so is there, you know, have you figured, like, is there a way
Yep.
or a recommendation on doing
Yep.
that at scale?
Here's what you do. Here's what's working right now. You want to check for and be careful with some of these catch-all finders out there. And we're doing catch-all verification, but we've really taken like a different approach. You want to be looking really, really, really closely at the untracked replies and analyzing those in the event. So if you're getting a 541s, right, you just sent to a bounced email address. You know, like where'd you get that data from? Like, I know a lot of the content, a lot of the like evaluation out there is like, did they find the email? The best thing to do is to not find the email sometimes, actually, because a lot of these tools are just permutating through the names. And what they're doing is they're just giving you names that they're guessing because they benefit from that because you're paying by the email. And I see it happening a little bit more now. But what I would say is you want to monitor the untracked replies and the disconnects relative to the campaign. And I'm talking about like over a period of time, right? And if you have this data, this is what's helped us stay out of the spam folder and more, you know, as much as we can. And then obviously we see it across like, you know, a large number of inboxes. And we've also helped a lot of clients and we help them monitor. So we were able to see that information. And what I think is contributing to this now is a lot of either invalid emails or just sort of sloppy campaigns that are targeting the wrong people, doing things like that. You want to, like, SmartLead is not a permission, like an open permission to just start spamming people, really. I mean, you know, you got to really, and you really, if your clients complain about it, really, you got to tell them like, well, this is a major problem. Like, you would never be able to get on any MX provider with this type of email. Like, you want to have that like, you can't just get bullied over. And that's one of the other things is like, but I would say track your disconnects by campaign and track your untracked replies for the bounce codes. And then you want to go look at all the bounce codes and figure out which ones are a direct indication of spam.
Right. So just a clarification there, just
Yeah.
when you say untracked replies, what do you mean? Do you just mean like bounce back messages where they say that server rejected your email, or
Bounce delivery, they're called hard bounces,
Mhm.
right? They're the ones that come back that they say, you could not send this email to this inbox for whatever reason. They
Right.
have to provide that to you. That's how the whole internet works, the bounces. And just remember, people who send quality emails don't bounce emails.
Right. So
Right.
bounces right, absolutely. So
Hard bounces are going to hurt. I mean, this has been going on since the like the early 90s on bounced emails, right? Like,
right.
so you got to know, like, if you're getting those bounces, like, you got to hold that wherever those bounces got in there, you got to try to pull that out. If you just want to truly know, run a validation. Don't just run a complete validation and send to the valid emails first. But I'd say if you're tracking your untracked replies, you're going to get the bounce codes and you can log those. You get 7 days of it in SmartLead. But if you use the untracked replies to your advantage and log them all, we log every one of them and we watch to see where the bounce codes come from, so we don't go run into them again. And I know SmartLead, by the way, just added another feature, which is incredible that they're doing this, is this is the #1 catch-all verification in the market right now, because what they're doing is they're preventing you from sending to people that other SmartLead users have bounced with.
Absolutely. So Jesse, what exactly is untracked replies? Like untracked
It's
how?
just like it's in the master inbox. It's just a section that they have where it's like a reply, but it's not like to a campaign specifically. And it comes typically from a mail delivery return to sender, or just like a,
I see.
I can help as
email.
well. I can help as well. Exactly what Jesse said. And sometimes on rare occasions, some people, when the ESPs respond back, they parse out the message ID, which is what we use to track replies, and the allocation doesn't happen to a campaign. On that situation, we have untracked replies. But next week onwards, that's been taken care of. And someone asked regarding bounces. We are going to move all bounces and all non-system or originate messages to the master inbox itself. So untracked replies will become very lonely next week onwards, with some improvements that we brought in terms of tracking.
Okay, awesome. That explains it. Thanks so much, Reed. Thanks, Jesse.
No issues.
Yeah, just keep an eye on the disconnects and the bounce emails by campaign, because bounces can also happen after you get blocked too.
Right, absolutely.
Right, it could be a good email, but you got hard blocked by that ESP.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thanks, Jesse.
Yep.
All right, mate. Thank you so much for that. If we've not got any more questions, as always, these sessions with Jesse go on for a minute, way longer than we expected them to. But that's just because people are very, very keen. I've got one more question, Jesse. I think Ravindra's asked it a few times. It's only fair that I get this answered. What do you think is the future of lead gen agencies? Is it enablement, or is it outsourced sales? Where do you see this go for the market? I mean, you're handling a lot of this.
Yeah, I think
right
you're
now.
kind of seeing this like split up here, where you have like your super tech focused agencies. A lot of them are on like the SmartLead side, I've noticed, but the outsourced sales part, I mean, I don't know where that goes really. I think the outsource, just when you sell somebody else's product, you own that company. Like look at the world, like, you know what I mean? Like when Amazon goes in and says they're going to just be a bookstore, and everyone wonders, well, how they're going to make any money just by being a bookstore, like that just becomes like, that's not the right use case, right? So I think that's a problem, but I think maybe there's a space for it. I don't know. I mean, I know there's a lot of those, but I think what you're going to see is a lot of agencies are going to have to pick up, and I see people like Cold IQ, they're kind of becoming your social media influencer type group, right? They're doing a lot of like, more like just sort of like sponsorships and things like that. So I see a lot of those guys out there. They're great. They're good, produce some good content, but I also see like a lot of agencies that are doubling down on this like tech. I know, Inbox Automate and all the
Yep.
Darsh and the whole group
Yeah.
there. They're doing
Yep.
a lot of that stuff. So,
Yep.
but anyways, that's sort of the group. Yeah, there's sort of two ways. The only calls are API calls, or there's two factions there. But I think it'll be interesting to see how it shapes up. I think it'll probably go split 50-50, right? Some are going to do social media influencing, and some are
Yeah.
going to do technology.
Love it. Awesome. Thank you so much, Jesse. Everyone, thank you so much for this. For those who are here, just a quick one for you all. This is still under the wraps, but it's sort of secret out of the book. So I will pop this. Maybe we'll cut this part out of the office hours. So if you're listening to this part in the office hour somewhere and it suddenly cuts, too bad, so sad. That part to basically mention is Jesse's going to be popping in. We've got some exclusive courses coming through on SmartLead right now. Jesse's going to be building a monster of a course for you all. This is stuff that
Can't
he's
wait.
not written, recorded, spoken about anywhere. It's access to his brain that we're very grateful to get along with Jesse. We've got a whole bunch of really big influencers doing the same thing as well. Now there's two questions to ask over here, Jesse. Just as a quick note, sorry to take just a moment. SmartLead's got a massive set of things coming up for you all over the next 4 weeks, so really keep up to it. It's almost like you're going to be spammed with a bunch of marketing mails with the amount of notifications we're going to be pushing out to you with the pushes we've got. A lot of you want a one-click setup experience. I assure you we've 3-upped that, and we've come with a much better experience for you all. So that's coming up soon. You don't need to buy mailboxes anymore from anywhere. You don't get domains from anywhere. We will have that sorted out for you, completely verified, sorted, and taken care of. Making sure your delivery is completely respected. And other than that, we've got about 5 or 6 big things rolling out for you, from the CRM to our AI SDR to obviously smart delivery, which will basically make deprecation of open tracking altogether. And we're going to introduce a new metric in the world, which is placement rates. So all the best to all of you using this. If you want all these live notifications, mobile apps there, join our Slack channel. Jesse's going to be always available there, but he's a busy man. So reach out to him, but give him some time to get back to you. But thank you all for everything that you do. Thank you for your support. All the best. And we'll see you in the next one. Like I said, death, taxes, and office hours every Thursday. Cheers all.
Let's do it.
Chat soon. Bye-bye.